Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, I want to talk about something that does happen with my cases where you're at the point where you're now seeing each other in person, or you're right about to see each other in person after perhaps a long breakup or a long time of not seeing each other. And then what happens is you see them after that long silence and you start feeling confused, scared, and maybe afraid they're going to run away. But at the same time, there's hope because the way they're acting is a little different than the person that you knew them as. And you're wondering if something has shifted in them. And usually it is. It's a complex internal conflict to some extent where they have a desire for connection and seeing you increase that a lot, and they're battling that because it's higher than they expected. Whereas when they were physically distant from you, the instinct to protect their independence was, well, it was in check. It was doing what they felt it needed to do, where you weren't intruding on their independence. And when they see you, they feel like their independence might be challenged, but even worse, they have feelings that they didn't really expect that would show up. They thought they were controlling themselves. They thought maybe seeing you wouldn't be too hard. And it's not. It doesn't have to be hard necessarily, but it does mean that there's that internal shift that they didn't reckon for. Pretty simple to say, but it's a lot of complexities happening. And so, what do I actually mean by the internal shift? And how come so many of the people that I have calls with, and even patients that I have, how come they can see it? Well, it's pretty prominent, but I still want to share what it looks like based on what, my cases have been. Upon seeing you, the interesting thing is what I've seen and what we've talked about in our calls is the avoidance body reacts before the mind typically. And so they actually might experience one of two things more commonly with my cases. It depends, right? Every case is different, so please don't think that if this is not happening they don't love you, but often there's two versions. One, they have a lot of tension and they almost seem very detached, almost like they're mad at you. Like you might think, are they mad at me? Because they're detached, they've kept distance, but at the same time, they're not leaving. They're still talking to you, they're still hanging out, and they're still doing whatever you guys planned. And it might actually feel like the hangout is like dragging. Because in your mind, you're like, what are we doing? Like, we're not really doing much. It feels like we're not talking much, and it's getting really, really dragged in your mind. But what they're actually feeling is that their nerves are feeling more safer. They're getting more used to feeling your comfort, okay? And the second one is they actually seem really excited and talkative and willing to connect and communicate with you. So those are two distinct common aspects that I see how avoidants show up. So that's kind of like that, I don't know, that shift, that automatic what you see with their body language. But I also want to mention a third option. It's not really a third option, is the combination of the two, where they're really tense and then they start warming up and they start getting really talkative, really touchy, and really emotional towards the end. This one is the most tricky one because sometimes they can deactivate because they did that. And so if you're starting to see that, what I would recommend is you start keeping a little bit of distance in that communication instead of engaging as well, because what happens is you don't want to scare them off. And that's the one that is the most tricky for a lot of people because they might think, okay, they're warming up, they're happy. Let me start showing my emotions as well. Then two emotions are happening at the same time and they might get overwhelmed and not want to see you because they get shut down. And so if you're seeing that they're detached and they start warming up, that seems like the best option emotionally. And it is, but it's also the worst because it's the one that deactivates them the most. So if you see that one, what I would recommend is to not show too much of your happiness and your emotions. You can do it later, the next time you hang out. Maybe the third time you hang out after this. Whatever it is, space it out as you please, or we can talk about it on a phone call. You can book that with me. It's pinned in the comments. But the first time, don't show that rush of feelings that you're having. Let them process it. Don't add to it. The best option of this is actually the one where they are really disengaged. That's the best one. Best because it's the least likely for them to deactivate again because they're protecting themselves. And let them do that. You stay your version, talk about mundane, casual things, and likely they'll be more comfortable talking to you again. Because maybe they slowly opened up a little bit, but not too much pressure. That one's a good one. If they do show up and they're pretty excited, they're really happy, continue to stay moderate, calm, I'm not saying be fully detached and playing games. I'm just saying don't fully engage because you don't want to trigger them. That one is less likely to trigger than the third one we talked about, but it still can happen. So that's that body language, okay? So then what happens is this also happens as well. And a lot of people report where they feel a little uncomfortable by this, and they ask me why this is happening. So I'm going to explain this, okay? Avoidance, when they assess you, it's going to sound bad, is like they sometimes stare, right? Like I think you've experienced that, right? Where like there's some avoidants do not have some social skills, like not all of them, but the social skills are just, it's not always there because they spend a lot of time alone, etc. And so sometimes they're staring and they're observing you and you're kind of like confused, like what's going on. And okay, I'm not trying to pick on any population. I do this because I want to help you guys. This is a lot more common with male avoidance. Female avoidance, what I notice is they do this, but like they break the staring. Like they stare, then they do something, and they look back, right? It's a little less like just like staring right at you. So if you notice that your avoidant is doing that, it doesn't mean something's bad. It doesn't mean you look bad. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with the way you look. They're just assessing your demeanor. And so they're trying to figure out, are you calm? Are you feeling safe? Are you triggered? And then if they realize that you're not, then they feel more safe. Okay, so there's a sub point to this, and I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. And if you want to talk about these in more specific, you can book a call with me because we're allowed to talk about those things in a space behind an intake form, not on YouTube. Sometimes it's because they're feeling arousal, and so they might want to see if it's safe to engage in that. Just I'm going to keep it short with that one, but I hope you get what I mean. Okay, so the next one is sometimes they might feel a sense of restlessness when they meet you. And so you might notice a change in breathing. That one's really common. But you might also see restlessness like fidgeting. That might happen. Shaking of the knees or moving things around or like readjusting their position continuously. Usually it's because they are feeling the tension that you guys might have. Like a lot of times, if you're seeing this one, maybe the last time you guys saw each other, you had a fight. There's a part of them that is thinking, should I bring it up or should I not bring it up? What I would suggest is you let them process whatever they're dealing with at that time. But you can ask maybe a couple, maybe minutes into that. If they're still doing that, you can say, hey, are you okay? And if they say, yeah, I'm fine, say, okay, no problem. I'm not pushing. But if you want to talk about something, I'm here for you. And then if they do open up, because some of them will take that, be non-judgmental about it and try to be a little less reactive, because what they say might come out like blunt or harsh because they've been trying to figure out how to say it. Because they might say that they might not directly say they miss you, but they might say, I just want to make sure that you know that there's no pressure about this, or I'm not trying to give you hope. They might say that. And the reason they're saying that is not because they don't want you, it's because they do. Okay, that's backwards, but like we're talking about avoidance. Of course it is, right? Normally, the reason they're saying that is because they're saying, hey, I'm considering that maybe we can get back together. I don't want you to expect that. And I also don't want you to think that we're going to get married someday or whatever it is. They're actually prepping for the next step to be with you. And so you might see that. That's usually with the fidgeting and things like that. And the last point of this that we're going to touch on is you might see their personal growth. This one's interesting because you might not notice it right away, but you might notice they're more patient. You might patient is a good one. Let's actually stop there and then I'll give another example. Like maybe before they were really impatient with driving and maybe you guys are sitting in the car together, you might see they're literally more patient with driving. You might see that they're more physically expressive or they're more softer with their movements. This one is really important because it allows you to realize there probably was some growth between the time you guys last saw each other. And so I hope this video was helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.